Limit who you work with, not what you work for. By limiting who you work with, this maximizes the most valuable asset that you have, your time, while placing priority on the reason that you're working, freedom. We're live.
Okay, babe.
Okay.
We ain't got no time.
Okay, baby. You could have started talking. You could have said anything. Hey, how you doing? What's going on? This is Jamie Jenkins. This is
I'm Kalisha.
You're Kalisha. Awesome. So this is the collab. We're gonna do this the last Monday of every month, and we're gonna bring on our co-host, Old Heads Mindset, and let them introduce themselves.
How's it going? We're a father and son team. We tackle personal development problems, self-development, motivation, and mainly mindset. So the idea behind us is that my dad is the old head. He has a lot of wisdom that he's accumulated over the years. And then I have my young perspective, young problems that kind of bridge the divide between how an old head might see it and how a young head might see it. So tackling the same problem from two angles, we think we provide a pretty unique perspective and a unique angle.
That's dope. That's dope. How you been? This is huh?
Yeah, we've been pretty good. It's been what, 30 days, I guess, about a month. And yeah, it's been good watching you guys carry on with what you're doing. And yeah, we're ready to roll again on our second episode with Hello Black Man.
We're ready to rock and roll. So the first question is, boom, what are your values and priorities in life? I know tonight we're talking about personal development, but it stems from something, right? So give me just give me a scenario and tell me about your values and what do you prioritize right now?
You want to go for that?
Yeah. So on this, I found recently that you have to be aware of how your priorities change. And what I mean by that is what I used to prioritize 6 months ago, I realized I kind of outgrew. Yes. And I found that I was stagnating. And then I realized that, it's not that I'm doing something wrong, it's that I can do better now. Like I view life as you progress, you're progressing through it. And your priorities will kind of naturally grow along with you. So to answer your question though, priorities at the moment, because I'm 25, mid 20s, it is about foundations. So I'm setting the foundations for 30s, 40s, 50s. That's my priority.
Smart man.
I'm not trying to conquer the world now in my 20s. I realized that was when I was 18, you kind of have this, drive to kind of conquer the world. I realized the way you do it, 20s is just foundations. It's okay if I'm not making as much money as my peers or people in my 30s because I'm developing skills now. So that's my priorities. I imagine my dad would have a different set of priorities. His age.
Yeah. So for my age group, I'm 54 now. So my priorities is pretty much been similar to when I was my whole life.
Yeah.
It's grown over time. I've changed, but certain aspects about my priorities, such as family, personal commitment to myself and the way I look at life and how I want to pursue life. So my values are high on family, having good people around you.
Yeah.
And priority here is to, now that I'm 54, is to try to educate and bring people the truth about how you can grow personally and how much personal development plays a huge role in your life. So that's
Yeah.
one of the motivation for old head mindset.
Absolutely. Yeah, my priorities and my values have I mean they change, I would say about every 2 to 3 years, because you can really reset and see where you are in life, if you hit certain targets or goals or not, and you can kind of re-strategize, right? So I'm 45 now. So at 45, if you haven't planned well, or financially, or from a skill set mindset standpoint, at 45, you know that you can see a window shrink and say, okay, I have to get certain things done, or I have to instill certain things into my daily regimen in order to make it a habit, right? If not, I can have bad habits or good habits. But at 45, it's really prioritizing time, or understanding that I'm not prioritizing it, saying, hey, I missed a day here. I really wasted a day. And at 45, when you waste a day, it counts. Like at 18, it didn't matter. It didn't matter if I, slept a whole day or didn't do nothing one day. But at 45, I start thinking about, man, I should have done this today. I should have done that. Let me write this down. Let me knock these things out. So yeah, age and time will definitely make you change your priorities.
Okay. Yeah.
So here's a note. The note says, I'm gonna have a few notes, a few questions as we go along. Notes, questions, and stats. So this says, did you know that writing down your goals can increase your chances of achieving them by 42%?
I didn't know that exact figure, but I'm definitely aware that writing down your goals is important. And I learned that from my dad. My dad preaches it all the time. Write down your goals. He even gave me a book for my birthday one year. It's called The Bullet Journal, and it's I'm rereading it at the moment. And it tells you this systemized way of writing down your goals. That's not overwhelming. That's not too strict. But just by doing that, I'm at the very least able to organize my time a lot better. And I'm a very creative person, and creative people's mind is always active over everything. So I need writing down my goals. Reminds me to have a linear way of doing things, a straightforward way. So
yeah, I didn't know it was a 42% increase, but I do understand the importance of writing down your goal and the impact it makes on your life. And it took me a long time to figure that out, many years. But it's an art to it as well. It's short-term and long-term goals. But this is where it goes right back to the personal development side. If you want to achieve things in life, you want to start writing them down so you can start ticking them off. Yeah. And as time goes on, your priorities change, your goals change, but you just reshift, you shift gears, and but if you have those goals written down, you are able to look at those goals and see which one are you working on, which one you've neglected, and then you can start making changes in your life. But when you don't have anything written down, you try to keep it all in your head, life will hit you. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you shift away from that, and you may even forget the things that you wanted to do. Yeah. So that's the importance of writing down goals. It's a personal development skill as well. Writing down goals allows you to achieve those goals. So that's the ticket.
Yeah. I was kind of shocked at the stat myself, right? Because 42% is, I would say, basically half. That's 90, that's basically half. And so to know how important it is makes it even more prevalent to just write down a goal for the day, a goal for the week, a goal for the month, a goal for the year. And it's kind of watch yourself complete those tasks, or it will teach you a lot about yourself, right? If you're shying away from certain goals, that hey, I have a opportunity for personal development in this area. If you're open and honest with yourself, say, hey, I've completed 6 goals, or I missed 6 goals, and all 6 have a common theme. Like I may have a problem with finances, I may have a problem with this vice, and it kind of helps you kind of shape, what direction you want to go in. I thought that was a very intriguing stat.
Let me follow that up. Let me follow that up real quickly.
Go ahead, come on.
That's important. people want to run away from their weaknesses, but you need to have your weaknesses right in front of you to say what do you procrastinate on, what do you struggle on. If you got those goals written down, it's going to tell you what you're not doing and what you're lacking in, and that's how you improve in life, when you discover what you need to improve on. And that's what writing down goals will do for you. But a lot of people don't want to be reminded that they're not doing what they said they're going to do. But that's the key to getting ahead in life, is having that goal in front of you and say, well, that was 2 months ago. What did I do? Nothing.
Yeah, sometimes you don't want to look like
Yeah.
I have a list of things, and I'm like, I know that list is there. I'm not even going to turn the paper over and see what it is. I'll deal with it later on. And there is an element of fear to sticking to the commitment that you made earlier on. And, it's a bit of self-accountability, I think.
It is.
Writing down your goals.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know the times when I have been in financial crisis or financial, I guess, not doing so well, I didn't want to see it, right? So I wouldn't check my bank account. I know I don't have nothing in there, but just not checking it seemed to be helpful to me. It was the absolute wrong thing to do, because I should have been checking it about an hour, about a minute, but just not looking at it, you just kind of avoid that accountability. You avoid that responsibility. And that's where writing it down and making it plain in your own handwriting, you write down what you need to do. I think it's huge. So I thought that stat was kind of staggering.
Yes. Yeah, you can't get ahead in life when you are doing the opposite, like putting your head in the sand, avoiding accountability. And that's what writing down goals will do as well. It will help you stay on course with accountability. And if you want to avoid that and think you're going to be successful, then you're tricking yourself. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. So here's another stat that I got for us tonight. It says the 70-20-10. 70-20-10 rule says 70% of learning comes from experience, 20% comes from others, and 10% comes from formal education. I thought this stat was kind of mind-blowing, right? Just this information is out there. But the 70-20-10 rule says 70% of learning comes from experience, 20% from others, and 10% from formal education. What's your take on that stat?
Yeah. So this idea is one of the main reasons for me why I do this podcast. So I do tutoring, and in university I studied a bit of psychology as well. And this is something that we're taught, that most of the learning that we do is not from a book. It is from actually talking, creating an experience behind what you're learning. So say, for example, what I'll get students to do to help remember things is that once we've taught something, now you have to teach me as if I'm the student. And by them just verbally saying it and trying to teach me, they'll learn themselves. So one thing, a hesitation that I found with doing any level of development talk was that, like, well, I don't feel like, what about the things I don't know? And the right angle to look at it is by speaking on the things I do know helps me reinforce it within myself.
Yeah.
Like if we do a podcast on tackling fear, for the next week, it's fresh in my mind about the mental tactics to tackle fear. So by talking about things to peers and friends and doing stuff like this, you yourself, learning all of the things you already know, but you know it in a deeper level when you advocate for it and talk about it and all that. That's what I take from that stat.
Yeah, I second it. Most of the thing I've learned, I don't have a college education. I have a lifelong education, and why I have that education is because my entire life I've been conscious of learning as I go.
Yeah.
Pay attention. As a young person, I was a people watcher. So I would watch what other people did. Either I would like it or I didn't. So I avoided the things that didn't seem right to me.
Yeah.
So it's forever watching and learning. And then you also learn to watch what works for you inside. So that's the process of personal development. It's an inward thinking of learning how to better your life, how to better your skills. And so that's what the 70% makes sense to me, because I also preach to my son and to people who are willing to listen. It's always important to work harder on yourself than you do on any job. And when you work hard on yourself, you develop these skills that will give you that ability to achieve the things you want to do in life. So that's the key.
Yeah. I'll tell you this, right? So if you had never said verbatim that you were not, I guess, academically or university acclaimed, educated, my perception is that you are an educated man.
Right.
And
well, I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and that comes from you soaking in that 70, right? It's people
Right.
that it says formal education is 10%, formal education 10%. It's people that have formal education that don't even use the 10, right? They may not even be using the 10%, but because you are, well versed and a great dialect speaker, observer, then that percentage still holds weight of what you're learning from experience. And then
so what you see is
others.
So Jamie, what you see is an example of what personal development can achieve. Because all my life I've studied these books, personal development book, self-help books, continual learning. And I advise any young person who's finishing school thinking it's over, you don't have to touch another book in your life. Push that aside. Continue to learn as many things you can learn by reading books. Everything in life you can learn by reading books, happiness and everything else. But my example is I continue to learn and I continue to try to grow. And I'm still doing it at 54. And that's why we're doing this podcast. I'm learning how to do a podcast, believe it or not.
And to add to that, here's another kind of side to this statistic. And it's trust your experience. Like with students, I was one of my students the other day, we had to analyze a image. And what I did is it was a very obvious interpretation. And what she said was right, was completely correct. But I said she was wrong. And I said, here's why you're wrong, and all of that. And I said, now do you understand? And she goes, yeah, I see how I was wrong. And I said, look, you were originally correct. You should have trusted your intuition. And the point is that there's many people from authority, tutors, teachers, people in books that make up the 10% of the formal education that will try and tell you that apples are oranges. I told her that, look, you need to trust that your experience in life supersedes anything that you are going to be told from others or read in a book. Those things supplement your own experience. They don't replace it. So for the people at home, the important message is that use your God-given intuition and trust it, right? And improve yourself by talking to others and reading books and so on from education. That's another angle to it that I strongly believe.
I like it.
That's another personal development skill. Trust, learning that you have intuition and trust. That's a skill. It's not just something you say. It's a skill.
Yeah, my I don't have the greatest intuition. I don't. I trust Kalisha for that because she can really look at a situation and be like, I can say, because I'm a little more I guess adventurous and a little more gamble prone. I'm like, this is a good opportunity. She's like, okay, so what about A, B, C, D, E, G, F, H? What about 1, 2, 3? And I was like, okay, I didn't think of all that. She's like, okay, you got to count the costs. You got to make sure that this is a good, position or opportunity, because every opportunity is not going to help you develop, right? Just because the opportunity is in front of you, it may be running in place. So just make sure that having that discernment, as they say, will be really helpful. I got a comment here that says, if you're green, you're growing. If you're right, you're rotten. So you got to stay green. You got to stay green. You got to stay growing.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's the attitude. Yeah.
One of the next stats we have here is about books. I know, Ricky, you are a huge advocate of books and reading. And I pulled this stat. It says people who read books regularly are 2.5 times more likely to achieve their goals. 2.5 times more likely to achieve. I thought that was a big number. And it makes me very conscious of how much I'm reading and what quality of material I'm reading. Give us some books that you recommend for personal development.
Okay. Let me first start by saying this: books are the key. There's shortcuts to life. You can go off and do it all on your own, try to, and it may take you 4, 5, 6 years to get there. But you can read it in a book, give you some ideas and examples from someone who already done it, and then you can shorten that 5 years down to 5 months. So that's one of the keys of reading books. That's why I encourage people to read books. Now, the book that I always talk about, and I've spoken to you guys before, and that's The Richest Man in Babylon. I don't have it with me today because I loaned it out to my neighbor, and he's reading it. And that book talks about financial gain. How do you save 10% of what you earn and build from that? Because the keys to building wealth. If I was to just give Malik $1 million, and he's not a millionaire mindset, he's not going to keep the $1 million.
Agreed.
Because he only knows one thing. He knows how to spend it. So the secret to that is learning how to keep the money, grow the money, and have the money working for you over a period of time. And this is what The Richest Man in Babylon breaks down in the simplest way that blows your mind. So I encourage anybody who wanted to learn a bit about financial, that is the best book that I can recommend. Personal development, I have several books on that. I would say I don't know which one is going to be my favorite, but I advocate personal development books, self-help books, anything to do with growth, because that's what I'm all about, learning and growing and continuing to become. Personal development. So what do you have?
For me, I think that it's important to diversify what you read. So personal development books are really good, but there's so much personal development in history, and you don't even have to read history. You can listen to history and watch history and documentaries.
That's right.
Some of the best lessons that I've learned is through historical events. And my personal favorite personal development books aren't even structured like a personal development book. It's just kind of like a historical account. So one of them is called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. And he was in a World War II concentration camp. And he found what he thought was the meaning of life in a concentration camp. And it's a very excellent book. But the book predominantly is about just his experience and the things that happened, as opposed to here are 10 rules to this and that.
Right.
Yeah. And my favorite principle for personal development, this is my absolute favorite concept, and it might come up after we talked about this, so I want to say it now. Alexander the Great, this is a historical event. Alexander the Great was a conqueror, and he went to Persia, and after he conquered it. And in Persia, there was a puzzle that the Persians created. It was a knot with ropes that was all tied together and very complicated. Nobody could undo it. And they said, whoever undoes the knot and figures out how to undo it will be the leader of Persia of some sort. So Alexander the Great went up to the knot, looked at it, and he cut it in half with his sword. And he said, there, it's undone. And that's called slashing the Gordian knot. And how this is relevant to personal development is because in my life, many of the times where there was a complicated problem, I was trying to figure out a way to undo the problem when I should just solve the problem and leave it. And Tupac had a similar quote, something along the lines of, some problems you just got to it's like a puzzle, and sometimes you just got to leave the puzzle pieces on the floor and walk away. And that has been the most important thing that I've learned, that when a lot of the times where I'm trying to fix my problems, I'm trying to do so in a complicated way, when I should just like do exactly what needs to be done and then leave the situation. And I learned that from a history documentary. I didn't learn it from a personal development book. So there's so much wisdom out there. It's just, I think reading it all, you're always going to find something. Yeah.
So one more thing that I wanted to add to that is that I always talk about, you don't know, if you don't know where you come from in life, you sort of don't know where you're going. And so going with the personal development thing, I have a book that I'm reading that has to do with our history, right? And that's with the roots, just with our history. So when you know where you come from, how our ancestors had to struggle to get to where we are, and then it helps you to take the next step to where you want to go in life. If I don't know where I come from, I really don't know where I'm headed. So that is a personal development side of it as well. Learning to know where you came from.
Yeah. Wow. One of the comments has, don't send the brick mason to sell your jewelry. I guess I don't know if that has something to do with the richest man in Babylon or not. But that's what Lamont.
That's right.
Yeah,
exactly. So that's coming from the richest man in Babylon, because it's one of those things in life where you might be good at collecting the money or receiving the money, but as soon as I come to you, Jamie, and say, "Hey, Jamie, you're a businessman. I got a good idea. Let's go sell some. I got some jewelry that I want to sell." And so that's where, if you don't know anything about jewelry and you throw your money in on that, you can end up losing your money. And that pops up all the time, where people are good at getting money, but they don't know how to keep it. So that comes from the richest man of Babylon. When I read that, I was like, wow, that's probably me at that stage where I learned how to get the money, but I wasn't good at keeping the money.
Wasn't good at keeping it.
No.
Okay. I have a question here. The question is, what self-limiting beliefs are holding you back? When you talk about personal development, what self-limiting beliefs are holding you back? What is something you believe in, you feel like maybe, or something habitually who you are that could be holding you back from developing?
Can I answer that one?
Yeah, you answer.
Yeah. So for me, it is this might be funny to you guys as well, but the belief that I'm too old to get started on something, to be good at it. Right. Now I'm 25 and I think, oh, if I want to, this is a really cool thing, or I want to learn this skill. It's like, I'm late in the game. And that is a huge self-limiting belief, because there are so many stories of, people starting things, in the 60s and 70s.
Right. Exactly. 30s, 40s, 50s, a lot of inventors, a lot of business owners just getting started.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's my self-limiting belief. But
you have that problem. He started playing basketball when he was what?
15, 14.
15. But he was a natural. I played basketball all my life. He was tearing me up. But his belief was, instantaneously, he started to, well, I'm too late to get in the game, because I wanted him to go to the next level, play in state league and all this. He always said, no, I didn't, I'm too old. I'm too old. I said, dude, you can beat me. So you can compete with these guys in state. But he never went forward with it because he felt like he was too old, and you still have that same issue. For me, it's interesting you said earlier about my education and the way I speak and all that. I have self-limiting belief, think that I don't speak well enough. I don't have the skill set to become a great podcaster because of my ability to bring out the important bits. I want to bring out the important bits and articulate it in a way that people can understand. And I feel like I lack in that area. And I can give you another story where I did that to myself. As a young man, when I was in the military, I excelled in academics. I excelled in the military. So I had an opportunity to go see the captain, and the captain was going to recommend me to go to college to become a lieutenant. Now, at the time, I talked myself out of it because I told the captain I don't speak well enough. I stutter. I don't speak well enough to be an officer. So I talked myself out of that opportunity. and a buddy of mine who went to school with me. We both went in at the same time. I went in before him. He went in after me. He went on to become a lieutenant in the United States Navy. I went back to work in the Navy on my Navy job. And so that was a time where I didn't back myself. And that was something that still eats me up, because I didn't back myself because of the way I spoke. And I thought, well, I'm not good enough. And it's the same sort of Achilles heel I have today.
Yeah. My cousin says, I got the same belief, too old. You know, you'll get that, you will get it. This thing about it is, the world doesn't necessarily give you that. You give it to yourself. It's most of the time the age thing is self-inflicted, right? You say, I got started too late. I can't catch up. But getting started means you are way in front of somebody else who didn't get started. You know, doing it for 5 days, you're 5 days ahead of somebody that is on day one. So just having that ability to get started and get consistent with it is huge as far as that's concerned. I talked to one of my buddies today. Go ahead.
So I was just going to say, to your point and to my dad's point, that my dad speaks well.
Yes.
And right, and but he doesn't see that because he had that belief. So it's amazing how these self-limiting beliefs kind of distort reality. And you know, you see it, you know, in people exercise and so on. They think that their body doesn't look the way that it does, and yeah, it's like these insecurities, I guess, kind of really shape how we view ourselves. And it can take a while before we kind of look through it and realize, you know what, I am good at this thing, you know? Yeah.
I like it. I got a stat for you. Back to the stats. And it says 85% of success is due to soft skills, while only 15% is due to technical skills. I thought this was an amazing stat. And I do know a lot of people that have that what you call the je ne sais quoi, right? They speak well, they speak fluently, maybe not necessarily articulate, but they can captivate an audience. And once you have that, once you find your audience first, right? I'm gonna give you an example. Tabitha Brown. Tabitha Brown is a huge podcaster. She's on television. She's a little bit everywhere. She has I would say a country twang to her speech. She kept doing what she was doing until her audience found her, right? She couldn't necessarily go to a group of mechanics or farmers and tell them about their business, but she kept putting herself out there until the people that wanted to find her found her, and now she has a phenomenal following. And she had that soft skill, right? She has that skill to bring people in, you know, and give them pertinent information. So I thought one of my problems is, for my soft skills, I am comfortable around certain groups of people or certain locations, and when I'm uncomfortable, I don't bring anything to the table, or I'm not assertive at all. And that's where I'm missing people. That's where I'm missing people. That one person that says, I knew it. This is perfect. I know somebody. I know this person. I know that person. You know, you're limiting your audience when you have that lack of confidence.
Yeah. So this stat is funny because this is what the field of marketing is based on. That, like, when you sell a product, most of it is the selling part and not the product part. That, like, many different Nike and Adidas both sell shoes, but this story they create, you know, the feel behind it, how they communicate it is everything. And it's the same thing. I'm talking to my dad right now about marketing, you know, how we talk, right? So there's a difference between the content of what we're saying and the packaging of how we're saying, you know. So this is a very deep principle everywhere, that, like, you know, sometimes it'd be a better world if everything were just like, you know, the product alone. Like, you could just sell something and it's good, say something and it's good. But unfortunately, with today, you have to package it in a certain way. You have to tell
do.
people, speak in a cadence. But that is the same thing, in the workforce, that like, I got, the promotions and everything that I did just through talking, the demonstrating of skill came after. So
yeah. I say, in your case, Jamie, I know where you're coming from, because what you have is a fear inside of you that think you're not good enough. You're good enough on a certain level, but on the next level, you're talking yourself out of it and saying, "No, they're gonna catch me out."
Yep.
And so you don't give your genuine self, and you don't. A lot of people, would they say, you just can't care about it. You just don't. I don't want to use the word, but you just don't care about it.
Yeah.
Right. So that's part of your challenge. On any level, you got to remember, when you walk into the room, you are the expert. They don't know anymore. They don't know more than you know. So whatever you're going to speak about is going to be new to them. So you're gonna be the expert, but you don't believe that you're the expert. So that's a part of the communication package you're delivering.
It is.
So for myself, I have an understanding that communication is key to survival. So if we don't communicate from a little child and we don't learn how to communicate, it's going to affect us in our entire life. So so wherever you position yourself in life is sort of equal to your communication skill and the way you think, your philosophy. So when we learn to speak well, we have more success in life.
Yeah.
And that's key to success. So but I have the same issue. When I speak to Malik, I'm more comfortable because I've spoken to him all my life. He's not going to judge me.
Yeah.
If I go and speak to a group of people, I don't give them the best version of me, because I've broken it down to convince myself, they're going to catch me out.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what I'm talking about. And that's the thing where that's a skill set that we both have to get over.
I went to lunch today with one of my psychiatrist frat brothers friends, and we just kind of chatted for a while. And he just like, he says sometimes you're gonna have a chip on your shoulder, right? Because you are a person that gives. You're a person. He says you're a person that gives. You do, and then you are gonna notice when it's not being reciprocated. He says, but you don't know why, right? You just feel like you know why it hadn't been reciprocated. He says, but what you have to do is you have to initiate those conversations. Says, hey, this is what I have going on. This is how you can help me. And now there's no gray area, right? Now there's no gray area in the development of the relationship or what I'm trying to build. So I definitely understand, like, what you're saying is literally spot on. And so, like, we basically answered this next question is, what is one area in your life where you would like to improve and take action? For me, it's being readily uncomfortable, right? Being able to go into that uncomfortable space over and over until it's comfortable, right? Yeah. It's like going into the deep end of the pool. If you go there enough, it's not the deep end anymore.
That's right. That's it. That is another part of personal development.
Yes.
You have to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And it's another statement I love to say is, well, if you're the smartest person in the room, you are in the wrong room. Because you can't grow if you're the smartest person in the classroom. Right. You can't grow. You're only going to grow when you're around people who are smarter than you, who know more than you, and now you're being tested and challenged to pick your game up and learn. Mm-hmm. That's when you're going to grow. When you are failing in life, when you make a mistake in life, when you start a business and you fail, that's when you're going to grow the most. Not when you do certain things right in that business, right? Because you already have that skill set to make it right. It's when you have those failures, that's when you'll grow. So I'll say to young people, never be afraid to fail. Get good at failing. Because I've failed at many things in my life, but I learned from them. That's the key. Learn from your failures. So get comfortable being uncomfortable. And that's why I learned to do public speaking, because I learned that everyone is afraid to do public speaking.
Yes.
And my mentality is, and I tell them all the thing, learn to walk through the ring of fire. Don't run from it, run towards it. Meaning everything you conquer is now your new armor. It's like playing your video game. You're going to collect these weapons. You're getting stronger and stronger and stronger. So that's the analogy where anything you are lacking in and you run towards it, the sooner you get good at doing that, now you are a stronger individual. Personal development. So you take that forward in your job, in your life, in your relationship, wherever you go in life, you'll take that skill set with you. But if you avoid it, then years go by and you're not going to be any better for it.
Absolutely. So, we're going to double down on this portion of personal development. And it says here, the average person has an attention span of 8 seconds. Practice mindfulness to improve focus. So like when you're having conversation with people, like how are you getting them engaged in who you are, what you're doing, or if you're trying to, develop them, how to pull people in so that it can be an easier task or an easier, I guess, job. This mode of personal development.
You're the expert on that.
Yes. So, my answer is not what you might think. With focus, people hear the word focus and there's a very strict kind of association that you need to focus. Like in school, you talk to focus. But focus is something that's cultivated like growing a plant as opposed to something that you enforce as a discipline, I think. I think you cultivate an environment of focus. So, for example, if you're working at home and you want to focus, you create a space where there's no distractions. That's a calming environment, and you don't do it for 5 hours straight. You go, look, I'm going to give myself 20 minutes every 2 days where I just focus, and that's reasonable. And there's a part of your mind that will go, I can do that, and then you expand that the next week, 20 minutes per day, and then that ability to focus is grown from 1 to 2 seconds to 8 seconds to 10 seconds. And you really got to retrain your mind. I think that a lot of the conversation on focus that you find on the internet and in books is wrong. It's not worked for me, and it's not worked for people who I've worked with. Now, you're talking about, let's say, if you're trying to engage a viewer or something, I always found that make what you're saying interesting and people will focus. Someone who I'm tutoring at the moment has a very creative mind, very creative, and they have so much potential. But the issue is that they're thinking and doing everything. So what I have to do as a tutor is I have to go, okay, we're not going to write an essay on World War II. What are you watching, like in your TV shows and movies and stuff like that at the moment? And then we're going to write an essay on that. And then they're interested in that. And all of a sudden, now they know how to pick up the techniques that you're teaching them to write essays. Because now they're focusing because it's relevant to their frame of reference. So this is the power of giving examples when you're talking to people. It's like sometimes it serves you to give a very weird example. And then you go like, you connect it in a very interesting way. Or you give an example that speaks to them. And then they're dialed in because now they want to know what is this that you're talking about. So I found when talking to people, knowing who you're talking to helps, but creating a really good example. Working with my dad at the moment, we're working when we talk in these podcasts to find ways to give good examples. Yeah.
So for the month of March, we'll be coming back next month, the last Monday of the month. What will be your personal development goal?
My personal development goal right now is learning how to write. Meaning my next phase, I want to do shorts, videos, but I want to be able to break that down, compact it, so it can deliver the message that I want people to understand. So that what I've learned so far, and I'm being trained by this young man right here. I'm his mentor, but he's training his mentor.
I like it. I like it.
So he's very good at communicating and teaching. So he's training me on how to write my thoughts on paper, which is a bit mumble jumbled, then breaking it down in steps, and compacting it down so it's concise.
Yeah.
And bring it to the. So that's what I'll be working on, hopefully, in the month of March.
I like it. What about you?
So with me, I've learned a very powerful thing recently, and it's that this might run contrary to the last point about improvement, but sometimes focusing too much on improvement stops you from appreciating what you've already done, and it makes you feel like you're never good enough when you're always thinking about improve, like, right? Because you're always saying, I can do better, and then the mind goes to, I'm failing here. I need to do better. And then for me, I can paint my whole life in areas where I'm not good enough.
Right.
And so I think, to me, by cultivating a strong mind means acknowledging where I can improve, but seeing where I came from. It took me a lot of pain to realize that. He had to teach me this many times, to celebrate your wins and all of that. Like, you know,
you're listening to that, are you?
Well, yeah, it's not wrong. So, the idea
awesome.
I'm talking about is to sometimes meditating too much on improving can stop you from actually having the strong mind necessary to move you forward. So that's what I'm learning. So my area of improvement is to thank myself for everything that I've done, look at what needs to be done, and then slowly move forward towards it. That's my goal.
Yeah.
James, hold on. James, just so I can just quickly say that's important for the young people who listen. Get really good at celebrating your wins. Don't ignore them, because the troubling stuff is coming. And if you don't celebrate your win, you're going to think all of it's bad.
I agree.
When you celebrate your win and something goes bad, you can say, well, at least I done this. And that gives me something to move forward with. But you got to acknowledge those wins, and that's key to it.
I like it. For me, I have to get uncomfortable, right? I've done things. The older you get, the harder it is to get uncomfortable. And Malik's push, and I praise him for it, and the people he's around and that he's inspiring. Trust me, the older you get, you want to become more conservative. You're going to limit your time, doing certain things, and it sometimes will hamper personal development, because you need to be around people. You need to be around to learn certain things, to understand certain things, to get that experience. So, like, I have to place myself in places I have shied away from, or been too apprehensive about speaking up, being assertive. So that's my goal going into this next month, is to be much more assertive. Not bully my way, but let people know who I am, what I'm doing, why I'm doing it. That's a personal development challenge for myself.
Congratulations. I can appreciate that. And it's just a mindset, because if you are okay and you say to yourself, if I put myself in an uncomfortable position, then I'm in the right position.
I love it.
That's where you want to be. You're doing the right thing. So
awesome.
That's what you want to do.
Thank you. Hey, listen, we're going to wrap this up. I'm going to back out. I want you to tell the viewers who you are, how to contact you, and all your social media handles. It's been a phenomenal show, but I want you all to make sure that you are putting yourself out there on this podcast. So here you go.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you like what you're listening to with Old Head Mindset, the father and son team, you can follow us
on our YouTube channel, Old Head Mindset Podcast, or Old Head Mindset, and on our website as well. We have a website where you can read up more about us. And
and you can also go to our YouTube channel on Old Head
Facebook channel. Yeah,
and you can subscribe We have tons of videos that we're working on, and several videos we've already put out. So go to our Old Head Mindset podcast on YouTube and hit the subscribe button, and you'll be able to follow us on that.
All right, thank y'all much. I have the YouTube link for Old Head Mindset in the chat already. So if you're here, Lamont or Nita, please go ahead and subscribe to make sure that we get this message out, man. Thank y'all so much. We'll be back next month.
All right.
No worries.
All right. Thank you much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Peace.